Manchester City 3, West Ham United 1. Manchester City won a record 4th successive Premier League title, don't you know? What I did quite like about all this predictable stuff is the unpredictable Paul Dickoff. Not that he's unpredictable, it was unpredictable that Paul Dickoff was going to bring out the trophy to them. I thought that was quite nice, Jim.
It does feel like showboating, doesn't it, at this point?
Yeah.
Well, he
Who's
scored
next?
a very important goal in their club's history, which I'm sure a lot of people do remember. I'm sure a lot of people are unaware of attached to that club. But, good old Dickoff. Nice to see him, though.
Yeah. I remember some of the greatest times of my formative years being at Fratton Park, screaming, fuck off Dickoff, which everyone used to do when he played.
Oh.
Is that City's new thing now, that depending on who they beat, they bring out their player who used to play for that club, who they've beat into the title race?
Yeah.
So if it keeps going this way, then it's going to be like, Nasri,
But you have to plan that
Adebayor.
You have to plan that in advance.
Yeah, to a point, yeah.
How bad will that get? Silvinho, everybody.
Not Adam Johnson.
No, probably not. He didn't play for Arsenal, did he?
No.
Yeah,
Unless they beat Borough to the title.
It's the one shameful thing he hasn't done in his life.
That's true. Yeah.
How has he come up in this?
So, I mean, look, 2 minutes in, Phil Fodens scored the peach, and it set the tone.
And it was, do you know what? It was annoying. I didn't have any kind of...
It wasn't even 2 minutes, it was 79 seconds if we're going to be
it was
precise.
in the second minute, I suppose. But there were several teams, so I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking, if you'd swapped the teams around they were playing, and if Man City were playing Everton... and Arsenal were playing West Ham, it would have been more interesting, because you can imagine Dyche just really kind of drilling them 24 hours a day. So they can do all the shape in their sleep and frustrating Man City. No one ever thought West Ham were going to do that, particularly at the Etihad. But what we wanted was a kind of flavour of it. Maybe we could get to half-time at 0-0 and go, oh, this is exciting.
For it to be a bit topsy-turvy as a story almost.
Yeah. But then when Foden does that, you think, oh, that's a shame. Okay, fine. But on the other hand, if you bracket up his second goal and the fact that Rodri scored, you could argue that actually it's very fitting. Possibly the league's best player this season. Rodri's possibly the league's second best player this season. There's some other people in the mix, of course, but that's a very fitting way for them to win the title. So ultimately,
two of the best players in the world currently.
100%.
It's an expression of their dominance, isn't it?
And while we sit here as broadcasters doing a Premier League focused show, we have to assume it's all legit until we get a proper amount of evidence saying it isn't. So we're going to behave on that basis today. They've been amazing. They deserve to win it. 4 in a row is something obviously no one's ever done before. It's an incredible thing. The level they're able to play at. Under Guardiola, Man City have been able to get into a situation where the extraordinary is just business as usual. And it was very, very difficult to tell yourself and make an argument with yourself that there was going to be any doubt about this.
I think I don't want to drag it back to anything that may be seen as being a little bit, underhanded, but the touch that Foden takes to set himself up for that goal,
it's amazing.
I want to see his foot, because I think that might be a hand in there.
It was amazing. It was amazing, wasn't it?
It's absurd. Just the little brush to set himself. The shot's amazing. The shot is a separate thing of beauty, but that touch to just...
The goal's amazing.
He's so delightful with the ball.
And even the finish, right, which is amazing. Like, we can sit here and concentrate and think, okay, make yourself understand that is an amazing goal. The problem is because he does it all the time. He does it all the fucking time.
It's the cleanliness of the strike, and as Jim says, that touch, which all Man City players seem to do. Just get the ball and their first touch is setting up their pass and whatever they're going to do next. And I know that's quite a basic thing when it comes to football at any level. Really, you're always encouraged to do that, but they've just nailed it on. And he did the little head twitch thing where he moves it to the right. It's like a lateral Pez dispenser. It's like dispensing out bangers. He does it all the time.
I mean, what a season he's had, though.
I think the thing with Foden this season, we've always known he's been a brilliant player and a match-winning, game-changing player, but I feel like now he's a tight match-winning player. There's an X factor in there where he will find a goal out of nothing because he can operate with such quality in the tiniest of spaces. And there is something really, really kind of magical about that. And we mentioned it last week. He probably is the replacement for De Bruyne.
Well, it's really interesting you say that, because at the end of the game, when Sky Sports was talking to Guardiola about Foden, they made the point of, he's playing through the middle now, which is where I think Redknapp said, where all England fans want to see him play. And Guardiola basically said, well, he's earned it. And it was almost like you never really think of Guardiola teams as necessarily having that middle focal point beyond someone like De Bruyne before. And obviously with Haaland there, you're like, oh, is there any space for that? And he said because Haaland was out for a bit of the season, Foden was the best option. And that was probably the biggest compliment of all to Foden, that he got Guardiola to trust him in a position that he doesn't really trust too many people in throughout his career.
I mean, it's hard to sort of nail down where he floats around.
He plays in so many different positions.
It's sort of a waste to kind of stick him to one, isn't it? Because he can damage you all over the pitch.
You can put him anywhere.
Well, for Manchester City, certainly. I mean, one thing that he certainly seems to have done this season is he's shooting from range more.
Yeah,
and you can immediately think of at least sort of 3 or 4. And that is De Bruyne-esque. I mean, a lot of the top managers often, obviously, they crave control. That's how you do it, which is one of the if you like, criticisms or sort of labels they've got, because it's a bit boring. Because as you mentioned before, they reduce the jeopardy of the football match, so therefore it's obvious which team's going to win. And but I mean, kudos to them for doing that. So it's all about the control, and one of the ways you keep control is you don't just shoot from range a lot, because obviously the XG on that,
you give the ball away,
exactly, all that kind of thing. But we know that Kevin De Bruyne likes a shot from range, and so when the opportunity presents itself, they seem to take it, and they've got the quality. But De Bruyne is, of course, again, one of the very best we've ever seen at shooting from range. So obviously Guardiola lets him do that. Foden seems to be has been given the keys to all of the kingdom now, and that is one of them. I know that's a tiny little detail, but it still, to me, has been noticeable this season.
He's also come into his own in the key part of the season. I mean, he's an amazing goal return this season. He's scored 19 Premier League goals, I think, but he scored 9 goals in the final 10 games of the season.
Which is when they ramped it up, of course.
Yeah.
It feels like that exact spot that he scored the first goal from is a place that he shoots from a lot.
Which is why I understand some people will say, for England, and we'll leave England for another day, but if he plays on the left, he won't find himself in that position too much, if you see what I mean.
But it's quite a rare thing to be able to get a shot off in that area, considering A, how congested it is, and B, the fact that when City play, you basically have to break the ball through a line of players to get it to goal in the first place. But that's because of his skill. Like, they load up very small when he takes a shot, and also because his control is incredible, he doesn't actually need as much space as other players to get a shot away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, just playing in tight spaces and the ball sticks. He's a remarkable footballer, and it's so great because we remember a few years ago when he came along and he was being sort of drip fed into the side.
Yeah.
And here he is now.
6 Premier League titles already. He's 23.
I mean, that is
mad.
Absolutely extraordinary. But in the individual in individual terms, here he is, just been given Premier League Player of the Season. Just a few years after, and you just think, my goodness, like the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, he might well be the dominant individual, I suppose, if you want to put it like that, in the Premier League for a long, long time to come.
Yeah,
and I think we're lucky, I suppose, to sort of slightly kind of take a peek in England's direction again that he's played under Guardiola in the formative years of his career, because this is how he's become so versatile, I suppose. Because I think one of the hallmarks of this season that's been really interesting and has been part of the reason that City have managed to be so fresh, because they are really dominant, but it's not always in the same style, is it? It looks like the same style because often people can't get the ball, but he's played Alvarez in the midfield, he's played Stones in the midfield, he's played centre-backs as full-backs.
He rotates very well.
He rotates like individual players' positions really, really well. So you never quite know what you're up against.
But they all
it's really difficult to plan against them.
Yeah, it did, and they all buy into it. I mean, look at Doku.
Yeah.
Doku, like, would be fair if he was knocking on the manager's door every week and going, why am I not starting every game? But he's used so effectively, and I think again Guardiola gets the players to buy into it, and they're hungry every time. And look, as Luke's already touched upon, we know the whole financial thing and the investigation, and absolutely, and we hope justice is done, whatever that may be.
I did hear that Grealish at points was knocking on Pep's door, but it turned out to be a stationary cupboard. So.
But that
says push.
But there's so many players in there who love being around it. It's a bit like with Klopp at Liverpool. We'll come on to them obviously in a bit. But they are once again worthy winners of the Premier League, and it's just it's unbelievably difficult for other teams. Credit to Liverpool a handful of times. Obviously, they won one of them, but to keep pace, and credit to Arsenal. But again, Manchester City go, okay, you're going to be that good. We're just going to be that little bit better.
And I think on when you mentioned it again there, the 115 charges outstanding, people seem to look at that as a binary thing. They're either amazing or they're not because of these charges. And actually, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Like they're still an amazing team.
Yeah, it's
Like,
not as
they're
if
still
it's-
the best coach team in the world, whatever happens.
Yeah,
No.
it's not like it's physical doping, is it?
No,
Which is
but-
how it sometimes seems to be viewed.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, they might not have had one or two of those players and all the rest of it. And like we say,
Well, they might not have had Guardiola,
Yeah, I mean that's the key, isn't it?
and certainly for as long. So,
I mean-
but I agree with Luke summing up of it there, that it's you look at the football and you're like, this doesn't happen on a balance sheet.
Yeah.
Or behind closed doors.
you're right.
It's only part of the story.
But it is a shame that that we're having to wait, partly because of Manchester City's conduct, we have to say, but it is a shame that this is going to drag on for goodness knows how long, because I do feel it is hanging over the club. But back on the actual game between Manchester City and West Ham, there was a glorious goal from West Ham.
Kudos,
yeah,
brilliant goal.
well, that was a kind of. I mean, Vish said earlier about Caicedo scoring an end-of-term goal. That was a proper bring-your-gate ball games on the final day of school goal, that.
Yeah.
I'm going to flick one up in the penalty area, overhead kick at the home of the champions.
Pep, just see that. See what I can do.
Yeah.
Sensationally good. And that was when things got a tiny bit nervy for Manchester
They didn't,
City.
did they?
Nah.
Well, for some of the fans, maybe.
I think someone was saying, there might have been Andy saying on Friday that Man City have shown in certain games towards the end of this season can get a bit nervous. I don't think they were nervous against West Ham.
No, but I'm saying some of the fans may well have
Oh,
been, and
yeah,
you
well,
understand
yeah,
that.
You know, that's
I mean,
just-
Guardiola did throw the mother of all hissy fits when Kudos scored.
Yeah.
And it was like, what can you do?
Yeah.
Like, he's just scored an overhead kick, man. Leave
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, of course, if it's only just one goal in it, there's always a chance. But then obviously Rodri scores, and Ariel may have been a little bit disappointed, but there was just no way Man City were going to be denied.
No, it felt like that. I mean, after the Man City Spurs result, I've kind of felt all right about it in the time, but sort of woke up a bit sad. I was like, it's probably gone. But then very quickly, I couldn't stop myself from imagining James Ward-Prowse free kicks
Yeah.
sailing into the top
Yeah.
corner, because he's not scored one for West Ham, which is surprising, isn't it? But that was the best I could muster mentally.
Yeah. Well, that Kudos goal actually broke the record for the most amount of goals in a Premier League season. Bearing in mind that record was in a 42-game season as well. So this season has been very, very entertaining.
It's a
Sheffield
very
United, everybody.
Yeah. I mean,
They've played their part.
what I would say
They played
is
more of their part than Manchester United with their -1 goal difference.
I do agree with that. Well, I mean, obviously,
104 goals conceded.
it is piss poor. There's no two ways about it.
It's like literally like turn Football Manager off stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like how I got. It's not realistic for me to be this bad at Football Manager.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad it is.
It is, yeah, and so I understand when we talk about the goal scoring records in the Premier League being broken. Often, actually, it can be quite a shame because the bigger sides are getting better and they're hammering the smaller teams. However, we can all remember, largely thanks to Manchester United, some 4-alls and 4-3s this season.
Well, Fulham won a couple of 5-0ers
Hey, look, they
in
scored
the same
4.
week.
Yeah,
Chelsea had
they
lots
did.
of high-scoring games.
They did. So I feel everyone's played their part.
But I think it's very fitting for the Premier League that the record being broken for the amount of goals being scored in the season is by a bloke who's gone up the other end at the home of the champions elect, flicked it up himself and overhead kicked it into the corner and gone, Premier League. Yeah. That's what we do here.
There was a bit when they were like, it was clear City were going to win the game, and they were just kind of talking through the season as it was, and they got onto future planning, and they turned to the bench, and it was Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis, and I just thought, fuck's sake, they're going to outlive me.
Yeah, but will Pep be there much longer? It was interesting to say on his future. Pep did say the reality is I am closer to leaving than staying.
Did you see the interview where he said that, by the way?
Yeah.
Because the intimation there wasn't that like, well, I'm going to be gone soon. It was that he was closer to the end than the beginning.
Because he's not going to be there for
Which is
16 years.
Yeah, which is reasonable.
Yeah, of course. Well, he says, I mean, my feeling is I want to stay now. I will stay next season, and during the season we will talk. But 8 or 9 years we will see. So, I mean,
He always does this, doesn't he? He doesn't like to sort of be very clear about how long he's going to stay somewhere. And I think it's just to keep things fresh and to keep things lively, maybe even for himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think Klopp leaving probably makes him think about stuff in that, maybe there is sort of life outside of football.
I think as difficult as it is to compete with City, as we've seen over the years, I think him being there is a huge, huge motivator for anyone trying to compete with them, because you want to win the title against this Man City team, against Pep Guardiola's City, because they have set the benchmark.
Jürgen Klopp is obviously one of the very, 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 very few people that have managed to win a league title when Pep's been operating in the same league. And Klopp said, if you put any other manager in that club, you don't win the league 4 times in a row. And he's right, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's.
You'd expect so.
But I mean, the energy that Guardiola still has, and the love for it, and the passion, and all that sort of stuff. But we at some point, one does get tired, and one does need a new challenge or a break or whatever. And so by his own admission, it won't be next season, but perhaps next season they will be in talks. We know that Mikel Arteta will be around for a long time, though, at Arsenal, unless it goes terribly wrong. You never know in football. But so far, so good. I mean, obviously they beat Everton 2-1, and that was not enough because it's only 3 points for a win. It would be quite odd if the Premier League said, "Go on, then you can have 6 and win the league with that one."
I don't like that.
Yeah, I thought you would. But I mean, it was they laboured to the victory.
Yeah, it was a strange game. The actual game itself was really, really unusual. I think the energy from the crowd ebbed and flowed to a point where it was very clear to the players what was going on in the other game, I think. And it was a bit of a sticky, stodgy game. Everton are obviously a decent side. They're in a good run. It felt really important that Arsenal won.
I know what you mean.
That was the feeling in the stadium. It's like, we can't affect what's going to happen elsewhere, obviously.
Even if
we are deluded enough to think we can affect what's happening on the pitch here.
But even if we win by cheating, we can still, importantly win the game.
Yeah.
You think that goal should have stood?
Isn't it the sleeve? You're allowed the
You're allowed the sleeve.
Aren't you allowed that? It genuinely is.
So wear long sleeves then, and you're all right.
See, Jim's referring to the T-shirt rule. Isn't
Yeah,
he?
but that is correct, isn't it?
Any part of your body you can score a goal. So it's not handball from above that point. Yeah.
Not handball.
I would have been fine if they cheated. I want to make it absolutely clear.
Well, a lot of people obviously don't know that rule, Jim, because people were saying that shouldn't have been given. But
but I can completely understand why. Like, looking back at it, I was like, I'm surprised that one stood. But I believe the T-shirt rule is why.
My only regret about this season, the league title wasn't decided by that goal. People would have lost their minds. It'd have been brilliant. Yeah. That's entertainment, Luke Moore, but we didn't get it, sadly.
We didn't, and I don't think we ever thought we were going to get it. But Arsenal did what they could control. They control what they control, which is something they've done very well all season. I mean, they've been very, very good this year. And I think, it's easy for me to kind of say it because I don't support Arsenal, but what you're looking at is improvement year on year, and them still being able to go back to the well after a huge effort last season. And not only were they able to do that, they were able to improve by pretty much every measure. So they've just got to double down. I mean, basically, you've got to be in the box seat for when Guardiola does the off.
Yeah.
And at the moment they are.
Well, I genuinely think that they will be desperate to win a title while Guardiola is still in situ. So I think actually him sticking around is a massive, massive motivator for this team in particular, not just Arsenal, obviously for everybody. But that will be what they're aiming at because it's them setting the standards. As you say, Arsenal have improved, more points, more goals. Defensively, they've been better this season. Champions League quarter-final, which obviously ended in disappointment, but is valuable experience for a young team going forward. And it's important to look at where Arsenal have come from. I guess we've been doing that a fair bit, but it wasn't that long ago when Saka had broken into the team and was looking like he was going to become the player he's already become, that among Arsenal fans we were thinking he might well go to City or Liverpool if we can't sort of step up and go in the right direction. There's no kind of danger of that now. There's no real talk about that with any players. It's an important thing in terms of the status of the club.
Here's a really interesting question for you, Jim, as an Arsenal fan. If Man City had done exactly the same thing this season in terms of points and Premier League performance as they did last season, this season, would Arsenal have won the league?
I think they would have. No, they wouldn't, would they? Because I think
they
City
would have.
They would have. Is that right?
One goal.
Right, wow.
So if Man City done exactly what they did last year, Arsenal would have won the league this season by 1 goal.
That's
so they
amazing.
improved what Man City did last season.
Right.
But unfortunately, Man City improved even more.
Had them going on the old goal difference, though, didn't we?
Exactly.
We had them going there for a bit.
We did, yeah. That's a factor that they've got nailed down, Arsenal. Yeah. They definitely won that.
You were right on the bonus ball.
I won the mums, didn't I, Jeff?
Well, Arteta said full time when he took the microphone, I think now it's time to have a break. It is, Mikel, and you deserve that break.
You have to. You can't keep playing Premier League games now.
Oh, no.
If anyone will
there.
try.
He's going, the 39th game. I want a 39th game.
Can we go to Melbourne as well?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Think, reflect, and please keep pushing, keep inspiring this team. Don't be satisfied because we want much more than that, and we're going to get it. Big words,
I
but
love
inspiring
that. Yeah,
words.
because the players were absolutely gutted on the pitch, and you could tell that they had bought into the idea that there would be a miracle from West Ham, and and that's great
Well,
work
you
from
keep going.
Mateta, really. Absolutely, but if they looked like they'd blown it almost.
I think it's also massively difficult for the rest of the Premier League what Arsenal have done this season.
Yeah,
if you look at the transitional seasons other teams are having, whether it's Chelsea, Man United, and if you want to be generous, say Spurs.
Well, Liverpool.
But Liverpool Liverpool will be.
If you see what I mean.
There'll be a question mark over them because of the change of manager. But ultimately, the gold standard is set by Man City. But if you look at what's needed from a Chelsea, from a Man United, even if Man United get a new manager or Pochettino and Chelsea start the season firing next year and start really well, the points overhaul is so big now.
Yeah.
I mean, even though Arsenal didn't win the league, they're still 89 points. Chelsea are back there 63 points. Man United on 60 points. Spurs on 66 points. Started the season brilliantly. Still finished over 26, 27 points off the top of the league. So there's a lot to do for them.
Yeah.
It's a real big challenge now for a lot of these teams to expect them to be the usual suspects challenging for the title. Going to be much, much harder than that.
Klopp's Liverpool showed the blueprint, which is that actually you probably have to do it over 3 or 4 seasons. Because it's a huge level that you have to get yourself to, and you have to get used to it and be comfortable there. And I think again, you've got to take the positives from a season like this where you can. Disappointing as the end of it is that they looked comfortable there. It showed that last season wasn't a fluke. It wasn't sort of run on kind of the thrill of the unexpected. And you can see how they can improve again. And they'll probably spend a lot of money in the summer because it's there because of the Champions League. So.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the bar is so incredibly high. It couldn't go higher realistically. And as Luke says, for any other team, it's not like it used to be. We remember in his second spell, Mourinho wins the league with Chelsea. The next season, they're nowhere. You think about one or two others. That kind of thing. It's not Guardiola. They'll always be there. They will always be having a near perfect season. And with what Arteta has done with this Arsenal team has been incredible. And they're still just that little bit short.
Incredible.
Yeah, just one too many off days.
I know what you mean.
Literally just one.
Don't lose at home to West Ham and you win the league.
Well. Yeah, well, that's it. Well, but I was going on about how Fulham were kingmakers because Liverpool has still got Craven Cottage and Man City. Well, of course, the side that did lose at Craven Cottage was Arsenal.
Yeah,
so they did end up being kingmakers.
Absolutely, and the take home from this league season will be that you were right. But that game is an illustrative one actually, because the West Ham game, Arsenal made a lot of chances and they played really well despite it being frustrating. But the Fulham game, they didn't really turn up.
They were
did
piss
they?
poor.
And you just can't have
and
too many of those.
Man City will have games obviously where they'll drop the odd point here and there, but that Arsenal performance, But again, it just goes to you just blink for a second, and that's the end of that. So what do Arsenal need to do then in the summer to, challenge to win it next season?
I think the shopping list of upgrades will be probably a versatile fullback, because left back's been a lot of shuffling around there. Someone's replaced Thomas Partey. Bruno Guimaraes has been mentioned for bastard factor, and probably a bagsman who can turn a 0-0 into a 1-0.
Yeah. It's funny when people can be going about they need a number 9. I get that. Yeah, they score an awful lot of goals.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But you need.
I think Arteta might know what he's doing.
You need your options. Before we move on from Arsenal, David Raya, proper club man, he said he'd swap his Golden Glove award for a Premier League trophy.
No one's talking about Aaron Ramsdale now, are they?
No.
That's an interesting point to talk about, I think.
Yeah, do you imagine that if he got handed the Golden Glove and he went around celebrating it? Oh, you're all still thinking about that.
Good news is I've won the Premier League Golden Glove award.
Has anyone tried to swap a Golden Glove award for the Premier League title?
I think you need 5,000.
Maybe you can do it.
Yeah, the currency, it's the exchange currency.
Richard Masters is here somewhere.
Yeah. He didn't get egged.
He didn't get egged.
Well, call to arms on Friday. Our listeners don't respect us.
Did you not know that?
Oh yeah, good point. Jim and producer Rory were both there, and neither of them egged Richard Masters.
We've got to be careful because in the spirit of certain investigations going on in the US specify, we don't want to be called up.
Yeah.
More eggs, though.
Got to be
If
honest.
it's an egg war, it'd be fine.
We had an opportunity, but there was too high a chance that it might splash Jules.
That's
So we
fair
thought we
enough.
could-
No,
we could-
do it then.
There was like talk that he was at the Arsenal game because he didn't want to be at the City game because obviously the charges over them, didn't want to hand them the title. So he went to the Emirates where he got pelters throughout the game from Everton fans.
Yeah, of course. Kind of comes to the territory, Richard, if you want to do that job.
Come on, Richard.
He's the Premier League hobgoblin.
He
We
is.
worked it out on Friday.
We did work that out on
Yeah.
Friday.
Is he divorced or not? I haven't checked.
Let's not go
Let's chat to him for 90 minutes.
Let's not do any of that. Let's mention Granit Xhaka, though.
Yes. One Arsenal guy that did win a title.
There we are. They did win it a while ago. An unbeaten season in the Bundesliga. He is now an invincible.
Yeah.
And he had to leave Arsenal to get it.
It's a proper invincible, by the way, as well, because they haven't lost in any competition.
That's right.
We haven't got time for this now, Jim. every
They
single...
haven't lost to Chelsea once this season.
No, exactly.
Did you see that the goalkeeper, Lucas Radecki, gave the Bundesliga shield to the Leverkusen fans and let them celebrate
I
with
thought
it?
that was so nice.
Well, and by the way, we should say that it's not just tossing it into the crowd. This is...
You can't do that. It's a fucking
Massive.
shield.
You
Yeah.
can't do that. It would be a bit Captain America, wouldn't it? No, as in he just didn't say, "Oh, yeah, you can do it." It was very much, these are the ultras who are leading the chant. The guy with the megaphone, top off, all that good European stuff.
And then one guy basically got the shield
Yeah.
and showed it to the fans and held it up and everyone.
And it felt like a real victory
It
for
was
the
nice.
people.
It was nice.
And what we like about that is it's the first time in their history that they've won the Bundesliga.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because fans of big clubs sometimes don't understand that those of us who don't support big clubs or any
Vish,
club,
for example, you want to come in on that?
Indeed, yeah. I haven't seen them side won the league title. We don't want to see the same team win it every
No.
time.
Yeah,
It's nothing
absolutely.
personal, but that's the way it is.
I really like the Bundesliga shield. It's a very, very cool
It's a beauty.
trophy. I
Beauty.
read at the weekend that the Premier League trophy weighs 4 stone.
Wow.
I'm astonished that Bernardo Silva can lift that.
That's massive.
That's mad. People would struggle with that if it was passed around in
Have you
England.
seen the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
ridiculous.
yeah.
That's a big one. It's a big old boy.
Indeed, it is. All right, coming up in the second half, we've got a fully clothed Jürgen Klopp. We've got Manchester United.
Yay.
And we've got on behalf of the neutrals, way.
Yeah.
And we've got Fulham clinching 13th. See you in a moment.
Yes! Come on! Well done, Arsenal. It's not a win, but it's a fucking good effort. I take it all day long.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was AFTV, formerly known as Arsenal Fan TV, after Arsenal drew with Man City at the end of March. Do you respect AFTV, Luke?
No.
No, okay.
No, I think it's fucking terrible.
Still not. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Stephen, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. If you will associate yourself with these people, Jim, you'll be able to get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners, get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent. And Liverpool Tool Wolverhampton Wanderers 0 caps off Jürgen Klopp's time as Liverpool manager. He was fully clothed, as I say, and at full time he put on a red jumper, put more clothes on, with a heart on the front of it saying, "Thank you, love, and I'll never walk alone" on the back. That's it.
It's all gone.
Good night, folks. He's done, Vish. He's done.
It was. I actually flicked over to this for the last 20 minutes, and it was a very strange atmosphere in a good way, actually. And I think obviously it was very orchestrated how they did it at the end, but his speech was so chaotic, and it kind of spoke to, I suppose, his time in the Premier League. Really, it was a neat little snapshot of a bloke who has so much going on for him, in a positive way, who has endeared himself so much to the club, and vice versa, the city of Liverpool has imprinted itself on Klopp. But he didn't really know what to say.
I know what you mean. I think that he said before, didn't he, to the broadcasters, was it Kelly Cates and Jamie Carragher, that he said the week leading up to it, he said it was very strange, and he was saying, he even said something like, "I don't think as a human being you should have so much attention on yourself or be elevated so high," which was a sort of more philosophical point. But he said that they had to kind of deal with that, and he said, but on that day they were speaking on the game day, he was like, I'm in game mode. I mean, it's just normal as always. And I think that he did really well with that, with his speech in the changing room as well at the end. It was just very professional. It wasn't especially emotional. And I think that he just went into professional mode, and I think that's probably the right thing to do. Make sure you get through it, and he has a little sing-song as well.
I think if you look at sport in general, with teams like that or any kind of success, it's beholden on the players. You know, whether it's you've got a medal at the end of it or not, it's beholden on the players and the managers and coaches, whatever, to leave the shirt in a better place. Yeah, that's what they always say: leave the shirt, leave the badge in a better place. And undoubtedly, he's done that. But with that comes an acceptance that life goes on. I think Virgil van Dijk said it himself that obviously he's really upset, but life goes on.
Yeah.
The Liverpool Football Club will start the season next year with a new manager, and they will look to, I suppose, improve on what Klopp's done. Yeah. Really, that's the whole point of it. But yeah, I thought it was very nicely done, and I suppose it showed the humanity of Klopp in a nice way.
I think you're right, because I think that's it, isn't it? Klopp is well aware that no individual is bigger than the club. Now, one can sort of think that for a brief moment of such a successful and celebrated period in Liverpool's history, and you think, oh my goodness, like he is the club kind of thing. Well, of course, it's not true, and it shouldn't be true. And Klopp is, again, I think, other than when he's just got beaten, and of course he's a winner, so he's never going to be too happy, and he can be a bit prickly. But other than that, he's usually got quite a bit of self-awareness, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And I think that's one of the things that has endeared him so much to the city of Liverpool, or Everton fans, you know what I mean. And but certainly with Liverpool, they're just their love for him, isn't it? I mean, if he wanted to be in the running for mayor of Liverpool, he'd win it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the way he handled that speech and the way that he led a song about Arne Slot.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
Was really his final act of management, wasn't it? Because it's an embodiment of the feeling that he's leaving the club in a good place and that they're going in a positive direction. It's a sort of disappointing end to the season, but again, it's that outpouring of love is a sort of reminder of where they were when he picked up and what better shape they're in now. He's re-established them as a force in world football, really. They are seen as one of the big dogs of European football again, and that is a big legacy to leave. And when he first came in, there was a lot of noise about heavy metal football. We were all very excited to see if he could deliver that, and he did with gusto and with style. And they are one of the defining teams of the Premier League era in terms of the way they played, the way they were just overwhelmed teams, just absolutely swarm teams from minute one. It's so much fun to watch, so dynamic, just so many brilliant players improved by Klopp, and it's a fantastic legacy.
And in that Premier League winning season where they were so good, they'd often go behind and then come back and late goals. And again, it's that jeopardy that the neutral can kind of go, oh, that was exciting. You got to hand it to him. And people often compare his trophy haul with Guardiola's, whether that has any value in it or not. I'll let others decide. We talked extensively actually on the mailbag on Saturday about Klopp's legacy and delved into that a little bit more. But he won every trophy available in his time at Liverpool. And they did win one this season, which was an impressive win.
Apart from the Europa League.
Sorry, yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah,
but they came close to that as well.
Yeah, well,
I found the speeches. I mean, you're talking about the public one or the one in the dressing room that was leaked. Yeah, so the one in the dressing room I found was similar. And what I put that down to is that he's just quite an instinctive guy.
Yeah.
It's impossible to imagine someone like Klopp, I'm going to write, I've put a few words together. He's always just going to speak from the heart, which I think is actually the main attraction to why people like him so much. And actually, we didn't cover this in a huge amount of depth on Saturday, but we covered it a little bit. With that type of character, you take the rough with the smooth. Well, the reason that he's going to go railing about a defeat that he's not happy with or a 12:30 kickoff is because he's such an instinctive guy, and that can be inspirational and really charismatic and contain a lot of gravity that people kind of are drawn to. But at the same time, it can be like, shit, why did I say that type thing? And that's just the type of character he is. I think, as I said on Saturday, the Premier League is going to miss him in a huge way. I mean, you don't know what you got till it's gone. He's a great character, and it'll undoubtedly pop up at a huge club again, probably a bit sooner than we think, because these types of characters, they always talk about going on long breaks and they never actually do them.
Well, I think Andy's saying that Bayern might be, funnily enough, a club where he might end up. I mean, you think about it.
People keep turning that club down. I'm not sure why Klopp would take it.
I'm not either, but I'm just adding to that chat. Klopp said before the game that he will go on a long break for sure. I believe him. I think he's got such a passion for football that I understand your point. That he'll be back sooner rather than later. But sooner rather than later could be in a year and a half.
Yeah. But his name is going to loom large over any manager under pressure, isn't it?
Indeed, but not in England, because he said he will not coach another team in England, and that I do believe. I cannot imagine him managing another side. I don't think he would be back for a second spell at Liverpool. No. You never know. I suppose.
I can't imagine him coming back to Anfield to watch a game either.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think Yeah.
It was
As in,
to be
not
done.
in the
a
next
few
like, year
years.
or so.
What,
yeah.
do you know
Well,
what
that was one of the things that really hurt Moyes, wasn't it? That Ferguson was there all the
Yeah.
time. Yes, you got to stay away. I also think it's interesting that he's finally joined Instagram.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think that shows he's going to.
2 million followers already. That's clout.
I'm one
At Kloppo.
Yeah,
I'm one of
2
them.
days in, he's got 2 million followers.
Is this
I'm
what
up.
he's doing? Is he going to become an influencer?
That'd be great.
Jim, do you know what? I would love to see him just travel the world.
Well, he doesn't
Just
have a
see
salary
that-
now. Maybe he's trying to get free stuff.
Yeah.
I think what he could do.
Someone sponsor him to go around the world.
We can't mortgage with you.
On Friday, we talked about the fact that he might come out for his foreign game with his shoes and socks and his t-shirt, and then nothing on his over his cock and ball.
Like Donald Duck.
Could he do an OnlyFans?
Yeah.
Ooh.
A Donald Duck. I didn't think
Donald
of that.
Duck, yeah, he's
Donald
Donald
Duck it round the world.
Yeah.
Be a proper German tourist about it.
Go and fucking Donald Duck it, mate.
Sounds like Ryman slang.
He has his little caption under his name on Instagram is the normal one.
Yeah, nice.
It's a nice dig.
It's actually very kind of Nelson Semedo to get sent off for him on it, so he could win his final game as well,
Oi.
pretty easily.
Days after Wolves file a motion to scrap VAR,
Yeah,
VAR go, well, I think we'll upgrade that to a red.
The referee probably should have seen that was a red
He should
anyway.
have done. He should have done.
Gary's fuming.
Yeah, of course
Indeed.
he is.
Well, yeah, we will miss Klopp. We will bloody miss him. There's no doubt about that. We will miss Eric Ten Hag if he does go. For all the
Quite easy to miss him now.
for very different reasons, of course.
Do you think he'll start a chant for the next manager?
Yeah, thanks for I just want to say a few words. Gets rain dumped on him from the hole in the roof at Old Trafford.
Manchester United finished the season on a high. They beat Brighton 2-0. It's a good victory, and again, one that I wanted to see because I want Eric Ten Hag to stay. I want them to win the FA Cup because surely you can't do that again to a Manchester United manager. But look, they clinched 8th spot, Manchester United, which is their lowest in Premier League history, I believe.
I also believe if they win the FA Cup, which is obviously a big ask, they will deny Newcastle a European place, which for sibling-based reasons would be massive for you, Vish.
Yeah, it'd benefit the WhatsApp group, and that's it.
For about half an hour.
Oh dear me! But the big news coming out of this fixture was, of course, Brighton announcing the day before the game that Roberto De Zerbi would be leaving the club. He did a farewell speech. The fans interrupted him with chants for him to stay. De Zerbi said, "Listen, we didn't find the agreement to move on. I have accepted the policies of the club. I'm sad, but I know my life and I know what I'm going to do." He also said that he's going to smoke a lot more cigarettes and watch lots and lots of football.
Did he really?
Did he say that? Legend.
Like, that's great.
What a legend.
Shades of Cassano. When Antonio Cassano was asked if what he was going to do when he retired.
plan to get
and
fat, didn't he
No,
say?
he was like, I am going to eat everything.
Everything. Absolutely everything, yeah. Yeah, the reports were saying there are unavoidable differences between De Zerbi and the owner, Tony Bloom, about the club's transfer policy.
I was obviously, like most people, a bit surprised, not necessarily because of the results, because they have been going down a little bit, but a little bit surprised that it came out when it did. But at the same time, given how Brighton operate, probably makes perfect sense, because this is the kind of situation that gets exacerbated during a summer when the focus essentially is on signings and money and how much they can spend towards improving their squad. And it seems like the disagreement has stemmed from we need to sell players to buy players. De Zerbi wants to build a squad. And it feels, in the world of football, Premier League football specifically, this feels quite a grown-up thing.
Yeah.
In terms of, look, we know it's just going to get worse over the summer when we have more time to talk about this. You want to move on, or rather you want to spend in a way that we don't want to spend. So why don't we just cut our ties here? So yeah, it's quite refreshing, I think, and I suppose it also speaks to a bit of the glass ceiling that Brighton have in that obviously they've famously done very well from bringing in players and selling them for big profits, but ultimately they're a platform for people to go on to bigger things, and it's no different to managers really. And I suppose De Zerbi is just pulling the call on that maybe a season or two early.
Yeah, I think it's sensible from De Zerbi as well because his stock is so high. Like he's linked with every single job at the moment, every single time.
Well, he was talking about the Liverpool job, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But it's diminishing a bit, isn't it? You wouldn't think of him as a candidate for Liverpool now. Obviously, they've got someone in place, but I think it's probably a smart time for him to make himself available as well.
It is. One manager who is available, surely Manchester United and other Premier League sides who are either needing a new manager or thinking of changing, is Max Allegri.
Sacked this week, wasn't he?
Sacked this week by Juventus. Angrily drove out of the training ground in a Fiat 500.
Incredible.
Is it Pete said the most Italian storming off I've ever seen?
It was amazing.
It's impossible to be angry while you're driving a Fiat 500. It's like trying to win a conversational or argumentative point while wearing a cycle helmet.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. No one's going to take it seriously.
Or looking cool while you're eating a bag of crisps.
Yeah.
It just can't be done.
No,
Can
it can't.
Yeah, they said, Juventus said when they sacked Allegri that he is incompatible with the values of Juventus, which is like saying you're too big a prick for this prison.
Well, what are the values of Juventus? I'd love to hear what that is. Have you got a list? I'd love to read
Is
them.
Max Allegri a knock?
Max, just take this bag over the border and don't ask any questions. I'm not doing it.
And stop
What's in
filing-
the bag? Stop asking. Just do it.
Well, Juventus finished fourth. They were a bit disappointed with that. But his behaviour in the Italian Cup final, where I think he was sent off, wasn't he? And the picture is absolutely brilliant.
Because it looks like he's undressing.
Yeah, he
Yeah, it
does. Yeah,
does.
his
Taking the
shirt
shirt
is.
off.
He's got about 4 or 5 buttons undone,
Yeah.
where he's screaming the place down. I mean, they did win the Italian Cup, but it wasn't enough. So
They also qualify for the Champions League.
yeah, I think half of Serie A did this season.
Yeah,
You know,
true.
They did pretty well. But they finished fourth. And Bologna finished in third. For those who are interested in that sort of thing, well done to them. But I wouldn't be surprised if Allegri's now linked to a Premier League job.
Oh, definitely.
He has been before.
Oh, massively. Yeah, of course he has.
But
yeah.
just stay away
He
from
was linked to-
our Eric.
he was. Yeah, we need him to stay. He was linked to a load of Premier League clubs after he left Juventus the first time.
Indeed, yes. Well, Erik ten Hag has claimed after the game against Brighton that they are in a better position now than they were 12 months ago. I mean, obviously, in terms of Premier League positions, that is factually incorrect. They do have a cup final to look forward to, as they did last season.
Yeah.
It is against the same opponent.
Maybe he means geographically Brighton was quite nice. It was sunny on the weekend.
We're in a much better place than licking an ice cream on Brighton Beach.
Oh dear.
This is lovely, this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Visho?
Of what? Of United being in a better place?
Whatever you want. What do you think?
Growing like a stalagmite, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, just when you look up, it pierces you through the fucking skull.
that's a stalactite actually.
Is it really?
dunno.
Is that from the ground?
I don't know which one's
Oh,
which.
okay.
I can't remember.
Would you like him to stay?
No.
But the thing is, but when you say that though, there does seem a feeling with Manchester United
I think
fans. If you get rid of him, then who else is there? It seems like a bigger issue.
I think he's been saying stuff like this, which is factually untrue for a while.
Yeah.
And it feels like he is lying in a 2-month-long job interview with the new owners.
Yeah.
And he doesn't trust that they'd look it up, which they might not, to be fair.
Uh-huh. So weren't we in the Champions League at the start of the season? We must have
Yeah.
finished higher than 8th. No. You're all right.
You know, evidently over the weekend, Sir Jim Ratcliffe did an interview with Sky News, and he's got bigger fish to fry. You know,
Yeah,
he's worried
I saw
about
it.
immigration.
He came
so that's
across.
good.
He came across really well, didn't
Oh,
he?
God, my
Yeah.
God.
It's weird.
Would you rather the Qataris got the,
It's
the goals?
but you never cease to be amazed by billionaires who move to Monaco, are you?
He also seemed to. He's obviously doing the interview rounds at the weekend. I saw the Sky News one, awful. But he did another one where he seemed to say that the most important thing to him was winning the America's Cup.
Yeah.
So, all right, great. That's not why people are talking to you, mate.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit about sailing. Like,
Finally, yeah.
You're part owner of the biggest club in
Probably
the
going to
world.
lose to some Kiwis anyway.
It's-
for
it's-
fuck's sake.
A lot of the kind of billionaire political class now, that kind of rarefied atmosphere of where those people are. There does seem to be a barely disguised petulance at them having to answer the questions that are being asked of them because they've agreed to do an interview.
That's right.
Like every single time Rishi Sunak gets asked a question, he seems really fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
Radcliffe, every question was asked, he was like, it was almost like he was looking at the guy going, why are you asking me that?
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
such thing as a good question when you're as good as me. You can't think of anything as good as me. Musk is the same.
Yeah.
They're all fucking wankers.
Would you swap him for that guy who is injecting himself with his own son's blood to try and
Oh, yeah,
stay young forever?
The guy who puts a little machine on his penis to monitor the amount of erections he gets overnight.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Would you swap him for the guy in Southampton who was waving the prosthetic leg around?
I don't
Or
think
the
he's
hand
a
puppet guy.
billionaire.
The hand puppet guy.
Which one of these is Pete Donaldson?
All of them. Hand puppet, prosthetic leg, little machine on the penis, and secret billionaire.
Yeah.
Chemicals magnate as well, Pete.
I thought you were
probably.
going to say one of the Chemical Brothers.
Could be.
I would do that.
Could be.
So it's a really interesting time. I think they're going to get rid of Ten Hag in the summer. I think they're going to make a bad appointment. I was also thinking about the fact that I wonder if they go for De Zerbi and it just ends really messily in a year's time.
Becomes a Graham Potter style situation.
Yeah,
perhaps,
but
if that's not too obvious. a
But
comparison.
partly because De Zerbi, evidently, you know, with the Tony Bloom thing, I don't necessarily know how amicable that was, but he's obviously someone who talks to he's not afraid to pull up the people above him in the chain. I don't think Ineos particularly like that or want that from a new man.
The arguments I've seen for keeping Ten Hag are that
outside of this room.
Outside of this room.
Has there been one?
Are that they've had a lot of injury problems, and they're not the only club to have that, of course, but it has been a massive, massive factor in the season. I think they've had 14 different centre-back pairings, or they certainly did at some stage in the season. Might even be higher than that now. And that is a really difficult set of circumstances to work with. Do you think there's anything to that? If they had a better sort of fitness record, surely,
Yeah, of course. But weirdly, United are actually, because of, I suppose, individual quality, United are actually, if you look at the numbers, they should have conceded more goals.
Yeah.
Because they concede so many shots.
Yeah. And obviously that's you can delve into those and find like a bit of a false equivalence there. But essentially they should have conceded more goals, and they've actually done all right in that way. It's just the issue is there's no real, style of play. It's not evident what the tactics are. There's obviously a sense that none of the players in the dressing room respect him. And also, bear in mind, like obviously it's quite a petulant dressing room anyway, by the sounds of it. But you can't, it's just fundamentally it's just easier to get rid of the manager.
It does feel like an Eric Ten Hag point
yeah.
about we should have conceded more goals, but we didn't. So
yeah.
Get a load of me.
The problem is he doesn't he passes up massively simple opportunities to improve his own PR. Right, he won't ever disavow a player's fucking performance, which some people would say is a good thing, but it's a good thing when you're in a position of strength. It's not a good thing when everything else is going under the bus. He won't untie himself from Anthony, who's like a massive albatross hanging around his neck. He follows up outrageously poor performances by Casemiro by just playing him again, when actually what you could do, if you're in an absolute shit state anyway and your season's over in the league, play a centre-back from the youth team, play an academy player. May not have got a great tradition with that. He makes really odd decisions all the time. He's like Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes every single week when all these
John Aldridge.
Or John Aldridge stepping on a rake every single week. And Eric Ten Hag's not even giving credit to the NHS staff.
No.
John Aldridge is at least sparing a bit of time to do that.
That's my real beef with him.
For all those reasons, make it absolutely clear, I would completely love him to stay.
Yeah,
what do you think Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to do with the NHS?
Yeah, for goodness sake, don't answer that.
Yeah, I think it's rather obvious.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to Luton Town. They were relegated. It was confirmed on the last day of the season. All but down, of course, before the game. It was 12 goals behind Nottingham Forest on goal difference. And they lost 4-2 to Fulham.
Yeah, their wife has kicked them out, but they hadn't yet moved their stuff out, had they? And then they've just done that.
And it was thrown out the top window by Fulham.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. Fulham went round there and helped them move out, didn't they? Yeah, I'm surprised this didn't lead the running order to that, actually, Fulham's performance.
I got outvoted.
Yeah.
100-1. But yeah, no, you're right. The big story was Fulham clinched 13th spot over Wolves with that victory.
Yeah.
Gabard. They needed that. Nice for Jimenez to score a couple of goals as well. But Luton, yes, conceding 85 goals this season. I mean, only Darmstadt with 86, and of course, Sheffield United with 104 conceded more in Europe's top 5 leagues. You can't do that, Jim, and hope to stay up, can you?
No, you can't. I mean, if you take the points deductions away from the season, it's they've all been slapped down to the Championship pretty handily, haven't they?
I'd like to spare a thought for Luton. I think they've been good. I think it's been exciting. They've given us a lot of moments. And it's impossible to say these kind of things without sounding as patronising, but it's amazing they're in the Premier League. They just so want to get there. They gave some amazing, real good moments, exciting passages of football, competitive games. They fight really hard,
and still technically alive on the last day.
They were all the things that Sheffield United want,
and even Burnley with the big name manager, of course, people looking at company and so on. Now, Burnley
were a bit in between, weren't they?
They were a bit in between, and fair enough, they rallied towards the end. But Luton are the side who people will remember this season and go, do you know what? They gave a fairly decent account of themselves. And I sincerely hope that they're back sooner rather than later because of what that club has been through. And Rob Edwards, we've enjoyed him. He's a beautiful man. We wanted him to be singing a bit of Bon Jovi in the town square if they'd have survived. But maybe we'll get it next season if they win the Championship.
Yeah, and I mean, let's hope that they stick with him and he sticks with them and that they can just use those parachute payments wisely and we'll see them again.
I think one of the things it does show is that how down the bottom of the table, how poor it's been, though. I mean, you could have stayed up with 26 points.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy.
It's insane.
That really is, yeah.
I mean, Forest and Everton are both lucky. Well, maybe not so much Everton, but Forest are lucky that this is the season they got their points deduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because even without the Forest points deduction, if you take that off, I mean, Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield United. Luton would have been down by 10 points. I mean, it's crazy, really.
Yeah. It is. We have to mention Crystal Palace 5, Aston Villa 0, the most predictable result of all the results on the final day of the Premier League season. Jean-Philippe Mateta scored a hat-trick, once again proving Andy Brassell wrong.
Well, do you know what? I was looking into this, and I think that ever since the very day that Andy Brassell cast doubt on Jean-Philippe Mateta's ability in the Premier League,
he's been proving him wrong.
I don't think any player has scored more goals in the Premier League than him.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing
Well,
thing.
since Glasner's first game at the end of February, Mateta has scored more goals than any other player in the league. 13.
Yeah.
13 goals, which is sensational because I'm quite sure that if you'd have offered 13 goals at the start of the season for him or any of as a striker for teams down there, or fans would take that.
Yeah. He's got 16 in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, I mean,
puts him in the top 10 of Premier League goal scorers.
Glasner's impact has been phenomenal. We spoke about this before, of course, but Roy Hodgson was there, and it was to try and keep them up and do all the sort of Roy Hodgson-y things. But we knew also that they play in a certain style which is not going to get the best of that obvious attacking flair that they've had. Now they've had their injuries, that front three and one or two others haven't played a lot this season. But Glasner has unlocked what those fans have been crying out for.
Yeah, and it vindicates what a lot of Palace fans have been saying for a while. I was also speaking to a mate of mine who's a Palace fan, and he said one of the best things about Glasner from a fan's perspective has been it's all well and good like having really exciting young players who then go off elsewhere and you make money from them.
Yeah.
But the best thing is enjoying them and being like, I was there when this, and I had QPR mates who say that about Eze, but they didn't have him for that long. To the fact they've had like 3 months of Eze and Elise tearing it up together, like clearly having so much fun.
But also this emergence of Mateta's part of that, isn't it?
Of course,
If you trust the players to play to their attacking instincts and to approach things with fun, then you really, really see the best of them. And that, what a Midas touch that is.
Also, there's been a precedent set in recent seasons for teams who haven't perhaps been that fancy doing really well. I mean, like Brighton getting into Europe. Aston Villa probably a bigger club, but have really exceeded expectations. There is room there, given the amount of teams that get into Europe this season. There's room there to do something, and with a full pre-season behind him, Glasner looks like a serious operator. He's clearly got the players playing for him. They've ended the season better than any teams outside of Man City and Arsenal. They've been so good, and if he can get them firing and get a good summer and keep hold of some players, they could be a real force. I mean, because they finished in the top half anyway, and they only finished like 11, 12 points or whatever it was of teams like Newcastle, Chelsea and all the rest of it, and they basically wasted the first half of the season. So it's an incredible platform they've given themselves. Really, really, really exciting time for them.
Yeah. I did enjoy that maybe Moussa Diaby was one of the best players for Villa. Follower of Islam. So
really?
That would explain.
He can go on the piss for last week. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I mean. Yeah, I've got you.
I'll do everything my fucking self round here, will I? That's what he was saying.
I was fasting earlier this season. Now I've got to do this for you.
Oh dear! And Ollie Watkins didn't get an assist in the game. I mean, they didn't score obviously, so you'd have worked that out yourself. But he was given the Playmaker Award for the most assists in the league this season, which is incredible for a forward.
Really impressive stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at
not too shabby.
Look at the goals, assists kind of stats in the Premier League this season. There's a lot of English players in there. I mean, Watkins has also got 19 league goals this season. I mean, it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, let's hope Harry Kane comes back from that back injury in time.
The top 10 scorers in the Premier League this season include Cole Palmer, Dominic Solanke, Ollie Watkins, Jared Bowen and Phil Foden. Like there's a lot of English players involved. Yeah.
I think the assist thing also shows just how well-rounded Watkins' game has become.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look, Villa were never going to win this game. That we can all agree on. Do you think that's why Unai Emery named his son on the bench? It's a lovely move, that is. Yeah. He doesn't even like football. He's
4 years old.
They did sign him in the January transfer window.
No, he said to the owner, I'm putting him on the bench now, or it's the first Champions League game of the season. You choose. You choose.
They got him, I think, from Valencia, but I don't think he's played too much in his career. He's only 21, bless him.
Yeah.
He's very young.
No, don't bless him.
Why not?
He's good enough or he's not.
Do you remember there used to be...
That's what Emery said in the meeting. What's he doing here? He's only 21, bless him. He's brought his sticker book.
Can he do work experience here?
Yeah.
All right,
where?
Can he have a photo then?
Son, stop asking the Villa players to sign your shirt. It's embarrassing.
They used to do that thing, didn't they? When
he's sober.
Get him on the bench.
He drove here, so he had to. There used to be that thing where like certain clubs would sign certain players who are maybe a bit above their station, and as a sweetener would sign like their brother.
Yeah.
Like
Zlatan Maxwell.
Blackburn.
Every single time.
He knows all my secrets, Kane. When Blackburn signed Roque Santa Cruz, they also signed his brother.
I like that.
I think Christian Benteke's brother might have played for Villa as well.
He was knocking about. He was definitely knocking about.
Donnarumma?
Yeah, Donnarumma might be one of them as well.
Yeah,
I think that rings a bell, definitely, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The Nevilles in the broadcasting world. Well, there we are. That's it, everybody. The Premier League season is done and dusted.
It's been a good one. It's been all right.
It's been in terms of goals scored, you can't argue with it.
A lot of good moments.
Picking out a game of the season is actually really difficult, isn't it?
Well, it's not Chelsea, Man United.
So many barn burners.
It's not difficult at all, Jim.
Yeah.
Or one of the 5-0 Fulham wins.
Oh, take your pick. They're in the same week.
Easy peasy.
What a week.
What a week.
It's going to be a national holiday next year.
I tell you. But now we've got to talk about some of the playoff finals down in the Football League.
Absolute bumper episode this week.
I tell you what, Oxford United beat Bolton Wanderers 2-0 to return to the second tier for the first time in 25 years. Imagine that if Oxford United got up into the Premier League.
Shout out original playmaker of the Football Ramble 11, Rupert Fryer.
Loves it, doesn't he?
He took his kids along.
He
He's
did.
a big Oxford United fan. Great to see him. They've had some great times over the years, and they've been down their luck. So it's good to see him bouncing back. And Josh Murphy.
There you go.
His second goal. Yeah. Talking about touches earlier at the top of the show with Phil Foden. If he meant that first touch for his second goal to go past the keeper, that is one of the touches of the season.
Yes.
It was a beauty.
I rewatched it and I
He
wasn't
took the
sure.
whole
What do you
fucking
reckon?
thing out of it.
So after a few replays,
dare to dream.
because he doesn't stutter. So usually, if he wanted the touch to be shorter, he'd like prepare for the shot, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But he kept going, which makes me think it was deliberate.
I thought it was deliberate as well, and they also got whooped by Bolton not that long ago.
5-0?
as well. So they turned it around. Yeah,
Yeah, they
took
did
a load of fans up. That's great.
No, yeah, and they narrowly avoided relegation last season, but 30,000 Oxford fans.
Yeah, I
Can't be wrong.
I do feel. I mean, I've mentioned them a few times this season. I do feel for Bolton. They play some really nice stuff, and I think the occasion maybe got to them, which is a cliched thing to say when you lose at Wembley. But
They didn't have Jacob Murphy's twin brother
they
playing for
didn't.
them.
And if you haven't got Jacob Murphy's twin brother, what have we learned today?
Yeah.
If we learned one thing about football at the end of this Premier League season, if you do not have Jacob Murphy's twin brother in your lineup, you're very, very unlikely to get any sort of success whatsoever.
Yeah. Every day's a school day.
It is.
Very much so. We should mention Crawley Town beating Crewe Alexandra 2-0 to secure promotion to League One. Do the fans down there still hate Crawley Town? Do we know?
I don't know, but they were favourites for relegation at the start of the season, as I repeatedly say. So they've done amazingly well as
They've
well.
done amazingly well.
And going back to Oxford United very, very quickly, their coach is a big Oxford guy.
Is
He's
he?
had quite an interesting career.
Professor?
He's managed out in India and all sorts of different places, and he's come back to his hometown.
How about that?
And delivered them a promotion. Not the best coach to come out of Oxford this season, though, of course.
Well, they're all students of the game up there.
That'll be John Mousinho.
Yeah, Pompey man. He managed to get out of Dodge and get to Portsmouth.
Out of the frying pan, from one amazing seat of learning,
yes,
to another.
You're watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.